Hey, gang. So this will be a shallower dive than normal. Those of you who have been here for a while, you know that these tend to run about 45 minutes to an hour. It's probably going to run about 15 at most this time, and we'll get into why in just a second here. I might not even do the intro because it's going to be that short. Okay, so if you've never been here before, I do a shallow dive on the road map. This is what I do is I kind of come in here, I'll read through the roadmap roundup, kind of look at the release view, see what's changed there, and then the bulk of this show is actually looking at the progress tracker and kind of going through the major changes there, kind of explaining what I think is going on and what I think are bigger important moves for the project at large. This time is going to be a little bit different. So with the roadmap roundup, there actually are a lot of changes, and this is going to be the bulk of the show today for an obvious reason, which I'll get to at the end. So I usually don't read this point at the top. Let's just dive right in. Notable changes for May 31st, 2023. Release view. The following cards have been added to the 319 column on release view. Mirai Fury, building, implementing, balancing. I'm making up new words. Mirai Snub Fighter, the Fury as a game-ready vehicle, and Mirai Fury MX, it's basically the same thing, except they don't even say the Fury MX. The following cards have been added to the 3.20 column on the release view. This is big, especially the last one. Arena Commander front end update. Replacement of the current electronic access front end. This makes switching modes, vehicles, loadouts, as well as creating lobbies a more fluid experience, as well as giving developers the tools to adjust features and create new ones more easily. So I made a vid, I think about a week ago, where I was saying that CIG should actually use Arena Commander as the tutorial rather than shoehorning new players into Area 18 because they might not want to start there. They might want to start at Microtech or Lorville or Orison or somewhere in Pyro or somewhere in Goss and so on and so on. But anyway, with the improvements on Arena Commander, they might be able to actually make that step. But let's go into what these changes are. Arena Commander, new racetracks. Test your racing prowess on the Euterpe Icebreaker, Miner's Lament, Snake Pit, Yater Valley as some of the first persistent universe locations enter Arena Commander. Alongside Halloran Circuit, a brand new racetrack on the New Horizons Speedway. This is kind of a big deal because these will be locations that are actually in the PU right now. So you can log into Arena Commander, practice a track, and practice until you get your times early down, and then you can go into the PU, run the track, and have a really good time ahead of time, which is pretty awesome. Arena Commander New Horizons Speedway rework. One of Star Citizen's oldest locations gets its long-awaited update. Yes, it is. The 3 Murray Cup racetracks hosted in the New Horizons Speedway have had their tracks improved and location moved to the holiday resort planet, Green, the 3rd planet of the Ellis system. Arena Commander, new dogfighting map, Jericho Station. Stin's INS Jericho debuts as the newest location for all dogfighting game modes in Arena Commander. This true zero-G open space environment has players face off with new distractions and high performance in the lightest of all our maps. Why would they say zero-G? Interesting. Arena Commander new elimination map, Echo. The FPS map, Echo 11. The FPS map, Echo 11, previously exclusively to the game mode Control, has a new variant tailored for elimination. Am I missing something? Feel like I missed something in here. Did they have an elimination map for Arena Commander and I've just never seen it? Or a game mode? I don't know. I don't pop into Arena Commander all that much. So let me know down in the comments. Arena Commander, new map, Security Post Korea. One of the new additions to the Arena Commander from the Persistent Universe, Security Post Korea will host all Arena Commander game modes, both FPS and dogfighting. Okay, so FPS. They are talking an FPS map. I'm not going crazy. So it kind of sounds like rather than having Arena Commander and Star Marine and Theaters of War, they're just going to have Arena Commander. If I'm reading that right. That's what it sounds like to me. So let me know what you think down in the comments. Arena Commander new dogfighting map, Winner's Circle. Alongside the reworked New Horizons Speedway maps comes a long requested atmospheric map for dogfighting modes. Battle in the Earth-like atmosphere above the beautiful planet Green, the third planet of the Ellis system. Interesting. And that will probably go hand in hand with the new aerodynamic flight control and sort of moving in atmosphere, the new flight model that we've been hearing about for years and years and years, and is part of the big update that I have at the end of this one. This is the one that, just kind of glancing through this, was probably the biggest of the lot. Arena Commander, experimental game modes. These limited time game modes range from simple twists on current modes to entirely new modes. This initiative will not only allow rapid iteration of game modes to be put in players' hands faster, but also allow all teams to gather vital analytical data for specific activities, equipment, vehicles, and in-development features. So yeah, it kind of sounds like in addition to the PTU, they'll be rolling things out to Arena Commander, which has kind of been suggested by some of the content creators lately and I guess on Spectrum and Reddit and stuff, is just to kind of always run a PTU concurrent with the PU and only rolled into the PU when it's in a really stable state, because through 3.18 and 3.19 the game hasn't been super stable. I don't know if you've noticed that, but anyway, that was the roadmap roundup. The kind of big one is this experimental game modes, but all of this in here is sounding pretty interesting, especially the inclusion of FPS. That sure sounds to me like they're just going to roll in Space Marine. Okay, so now we're over here in the release view. We've got the only changes. So if you don't really know what to look for, there's a tiny orange dot right there. That means that they've added something new. So they've added new stuff to gameplay, and they've added new stuff to ships and vehicles since the last time I did one of these. So Arsai Lynx, which we got, Mirai Fury, which we got, Mirai Fury MX, which we got. They're probably going to be adding more things on here for 3.19.1. But prior to that, or post to that, they've added all of this to gameplay for 3.20, which in theory is coming around IAA, around Q3. Ship Trespass, that's the one where if you get on someone's ship and you're not part of their party, they can shoot you legally. Retrieve Consignment. A consignment is basically just a shopping list. So you're going to get me this, and this. I don't care where you get it from. I just need those components, and you're going to go get them. Arena Commander front end update, and these are all going to be the things that they just mentioned in the other one. Usually these descriptions are the exact same. Just going to kind of glance through them. But I mean, yeah, you can look at these pictures. Yeah, that is FPS mode. So yeah, it looks like they're just rolling Star Marine into Arena Commander, which, I mean, about time. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. So that's the over green, the sort of forest world. Security Post Korea. See if we can pull anything out of the picture there. No, it just looks like a generic shot of Korea. And ships and vehicles, of course, we're getting the Hull C. Did a show a week and a half ago about the Hull C and how important that ship is to the game, just because of all the features they'll bring in with it. Somebody left a comment that said that I was confusing the what'll essentially come with the whole sea is sort of cargo missions where they'll be saying, hey, we need a cargo mover to move 20 freight boxes from point A to point B. That will be a part of the Mystical Sea's role, but it is certainly going to be the case that the Mystical Sea will be, people won't all be running those missions that have a whole sea. Like a lot of people will be buying their own stuff in one location and selling their stuff in the other location and taking on 100% of the risk, because you could make a lot more money doing that than just moving 20 boxes of kitty litter for someone. So there's no risk in that because you don't put money in, they're just paying you to transport. So it's going to be both. They were, we'll call them 50% right on that comment. That I knew about that feature. I didn't mention it, but it's also not on the roadmap right now, which is kind of weird because it should be. And that is, yeah, that'll be a big part of whole sea life, but especially for the people that don't want to take a lot of risks, which whole sea doesn't have a lot of defenses, so makes sense. Let's pop on over to the progress tracker and see if you can spot what I spotted in about 10 seconds. So normally what I do is I come down here and I'll say, pop this open, and then look at the teams that are working on it, how long they're working on it, when it's projected to finish, and then just kind of make projections on when I think it will actually finish. So CIG works on the Agile development system, which runs in sprints of 2 weeks. So a team will take on a project, work on it for 2 weeks, and at the end of the 2 weeks, they kind of reassess and they sort of say, we need 2 more weeks and we can kind of keep going on this exploration, or we need another team to come in and work on this thing, or we're missing tech. Like somebody else has to build a tool for us, or like, let's say audio has to take their bite before we can do it. Somebody else has to build like panels before we can move any further. And so they just kind of go on hold. Another team kind of takes over and then they jump back in. So that's the Agile system, but it moves in 2 weeks. But obviously with some of these things, they don't. So I started looking through here and I was like, oh, that's weird. They pulled this deliverable from there. So it's not too unusual for CIG to pull something from the deliverables. Occasionally they'll, like in that development schedule, they'll kind of hit a wall and they'll kind of be like, we're not ready for this yet. Let's pull it off. We'll kind of like the Band of Merchantmen, we'll put a pin in it for now. And then we'll come back to it when we know how to tackle it, or when we actually have like the devs to deal with it. It's kind of rare that something will disappear entirely, but it's not unheard of. But on this one, it happened to be actor status version 2, which I've been talking about pretty heavily for probably like the last 6 months, because I feel like it's going to be the next tier of medical gameplay as well as other features. But I think it's going to bring in cybernetics, DNA degradation, or I think they called it genetic degradation, and like a few other things that kind of spoke to me and said they might start rolling in like medical tier 2 off of this. You can see this is alphabetical and it's gone. I was kind of like, that's kind of a big feature to disappear, but maybe they had a good reason for it. And so, I mean, I just kind of made a note, and sometimes their Jira doesn't update the progress tracker, and so something will drop off even though it's very much still being worked on. But anyway, then I noticed that aerodynamic control surfaces was gone, and that's a huge one because that's the new flight model that they've been working on for like the last year and a half. Gone. And I was kind of going, okay, that's a little weird. I started like scrolling through this, and probably about 50% of the features are just gone. And I was like, okay, this can't just be me. This has happened once before, and I did my update and like half the stuff was missing. I was just like, this is stupid. Let me just wait a couple hours, and I refreshed and it's fixed. But I went over to the roadmap roundup post by Jake over on Spectrum and rolled on down to this. So right here, Additional note, there are a few issues on Progress Tracker at the moment, which you'll see if you visit the page, preventing an update there this week. Our folks are on it and we'll have this resolved by our subsequent patch or our subsequent publish in 2 weeks. So yeah, King E84, of course, 2 weeks. It's always 2 weeks. So I won't be going through the Progress Tracker from here. So yeah, shorter one than normal. Yeah, I don't even think that they have. Oh yeah, one thing I could talk about. Yeah, so basically I was going to see if the unannounced ships, like the Sulian, what I think is the Sulian, would be on there. But it looks like anything that had work on it, except for Squadron 42 vehicle support, is gone. So anything that's currently been working on didn't show up on this. So gang, that's it. Real short one this time. We can assume that most things were kind of progressing. This is kind of a quiet time of year. We're in Invictus is over, 319.1 is dropping. They're not going to be doing any really giant shifts. So mostly I kind of would have just pointed out a few things I find interesting and go into them in depth. But at this point, 2 weeks from now, we'll have a lot more to deal with, and we'll have 319.1. So we'll know what's coming in that one. Should have some extra stuff. Hopefully the servers are way more stable, but it's all I got, gang. So see you next time.